Call the open session of tonight's Orangeville Town Council meeting to order. This is Monday, July the 12th, 7 p.m. I'm going to read a few notices to begin the meeting. Due to efforts to contain the spread of COVID-19 and to protect all individuals, the council chambers at Town Hall will not be open to the public to attend council meetings until further notice. Members of the public who have an interest in a matter listed on the agenda may, up until 10 a.m. on the day of a scheduled council meeting, email councilagenda@orangeville.ca indicating your request to speak to a matter listed on the agenda. A phone number and conference ID code will be provided to you so that you may join the virtual meeting and provide your comments to council. Delegates, please remember to keep your microphone muted and your camera turned off until it is your turn to address council. As a reminder, in accordance with our procedural bylaw, delegates are permitted 5 minutes to address council. Members of the public wishing to raise a question during the public question period of the council meeting may, beginning at 8 p.m. on the evening of the council meeting, call 1-289-801-5774 and enter conference ID 581-014-931 #. Correspondence and emails submitted will be considered as public information and entered into the public record. If you require access to information in an alternate format, please contact the Clerk's Division by phone at 519-941-0440 extension 2256 or via email at clerksdepartment@orangeville.ca. We would like to acknowledge the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people, including the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, and Odawa of the Three Fires Confederacy. This meeting is being aired on public television and or streamed live and may be taped for later public broadcast or webcast. Your name is part of the public record and will be included in the minutes of this meeting. I'd like to call on Mr. Bonato to have the singing of our national anthem. Mr. Bonato.
Through your worship, I do apologize, but for some reason the sound isn't coming through. I'm playing the file, but it's just coming through blank. So I think we're gonna have to skip the national anthem this evening.
Okay. All right, Mr. Bonato. A little technical glitch there. Unless one of the councillors would like to sing. I
think we could all sing collectively.
Okay. All right. Let's go. Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. All right, thank you.
Your worship, I thought when I was running after a moving vehicle trying to keep up to you there, but it was good.
Sorry, a little nervous there, but anyway, we got through it. Earlier tonight, members of the public, we had a closed session of council. We discussed a few items. I'm going to rise and report here, and I'm going to read the recommendation was that the June 28th, 2021 closed council meetings be approved, and that a confidential verbal report from Mayor Brown regarding 100 Mill Street regarding a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board be received, and that a confidential verbal report from Ed Brennan, CAO, regarding 120 C line, a rail line spur regarding a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiation carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board be received, and that report INS 2021-046 regarding 41 William Street, appeal of a Committee of Adjustment decision regarding litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, be received, and that staff proceed as directed. May I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if I may, just based on your disclosure earlier this evening with respect to item one of the for 41 William.
Oh, yes, of course.
I do
We need to
recommend
break this up into
you
two
need
votes.
to separate the vote on that, Mr. Mayor.
Right. So just for the public, earlier this evening, I declared a pecuniary interest on item 4.4. My son is involved in that particular property, so I was recused myself from that part of the closed session, and as council discussed that issue. So if we can back this up, then we'll have a vote on receiving the information regarding the closed council minutes, 4.1, the confidential report from myself, 4.2, and the confidential report from Mr. Brennan, 4.3. Could we have a motion on those items, please?
And
Councillor Peters, and to direct staff
yes,
to
please.
proceed as
Mayor.
directed?
Yes.
My apologies. Okay, Councillor Peters, amendment agreed. Councillor Andrews, very good. All in favor?
And then if
Now, Madam Clerk, on procedure here, should I turn this over to Deputy Mayor McIntosh?
that's exactly what I was going to suggest, Mr. Mayor.
All right, Deputy Mayor, on rise and report on the last item, 4.4. Over to you, sir. I will recuse myself from this vote.
Thank you, Worship. On item 4.4, do we have a motion to accept that?
If I may, Mr. Deputy Mayor McIntosh, to receive that particular report and also for staff to proceed as directed.
Right. Yes, to receive and staff as directed. Made by Lisa and Debbie. All in favor? Passed.
Right. Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Moving on to item 10, we have the adoption of minutes of a previous council meeting. We have the council minutes of June the 28th. Could we have a motion to approve those minutes, please? Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Andrews. Any comments or errors or omissions, councillors? Seeing none, all in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 11. These are presentations, petitions, or delegations. We have with us this evening Mr. Matthew Melchior of Primacare Living Solutions to discuss a proposal that his company has for our Humberlands. Mr. Melchior.
Good evening, Your Worship. Just trying to get on here. Thank you very much. Your Worship and Council, thank you for. Can you hear me?
Yeah, if you can speak into the microphone, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Is that better? There we go. Okay, Your Worship, thank you very much. My name is Matthew Melchior. I hope it's okay that I've shared a screen of a PowerPoint presentation in support of remarks this evening. And I want to thank both yourself and the town for the opportunity to be able to appear to speak towards the Headwaters Seniors Village, a proposed intergenerational, integrated, future forward-looking campus of care. My company is Primacare Living Solutions. Primacare Living Solutions is a family-owned business. We operate more than 800 beds in multiple facilities throughout the province and have further facilities as parts of campuses of care to come. Primacare is proud of innovation. We were early adopters of the butterfly philosophy of care, an emotion-based philosophy in partnership with Mindful Care Matters in the UK. Primacare is also a big fan of innovation. We've partnered with University of Western Ontario, now Western University, calling it by my old alma mater name, and Baycrest Hospital to use virtual reality therapy to improve the daily living experience for those with mild to moderate dementia. Again, we believe in quality. We've partnered with the RNAO and implemented best practice guidelines in our 3 owned facilities to pursue quality outcomes to improve the quality that we provide. Back on March 9th in 2020, we had the honor of appearing before your council, asking for support for Primacare's application for a new long-term care facility to serve Orangeville and Greater Dufferin County. We thank the town and our other partners for letters of support. We now appear before this council to publicly announce that the ministry has granted 192 long-term care bed licenses to Primacare, and we're working to build those beds as soon as possible to serve the seniors of Orangeville and to serve the seniors of Dufferin County at large. Next slide, please. So tonight we want to discuss the opportunity of Headwaters Seniors Village, a fully integrated, intergenerational, forward-looking seniors campus. So let's break that down. A 192-bed, butterfly, bespoke, long-term care residence will be built immediately to anchor a seniors village. Integrated, the seniors village shall include educational elements, geriatric medicine, hopefully affordable seniors components, and various types of seniors housing. The campus shall be intergenerational by including educational opportunities with Georgian College, where there will be students interacting through a live classroom within the facility. And we're having discussions with Georgian to increase that presence even more on the campus. Additionally, we will be providing children's daycare, an important element to allow those who work at the facility, and there will be north of 250 persons working in the long-term care alone, to have supports necessary to have their children taken care of and close by. Additionally, the children present on campus will provide multi-generational opportunities between the children and the seniors to improve the effect both for the youngsters and for the seniors themselves. Modern campuses embrace wellness, and that wellness is provided through an entire seniors housing continuum being presented on the campus. Simply, we will also work with medical partners to provide care closer to home, to allow those to age in place and have access to care improved. Next slide, please. So we said the 192 long-term care shall anchor the campus. What is Butterfly? It's a shift from checklist institutional care to emotion-based care. It's home-like environments, it's vibrant colors, it's creating households, it's eliciting positive memories, respecting feelings, and respecting the emotional intelligence of seniors. It's an inclusive environment. In the case of Headwaters Long-Term Care, it speaks to inclusion and respect by including 16 specifically designed beds to serve our Indigenous brothers and sisters with sensitivity, inclusivity. Next slide, please. The Butterfly transformation, and this is a picture of our facility in St. Catharines, starts from institutional beige and goes to, next slide, please, color, vitality, bright spaces, warm and home-like environments, celebrations of life, memories of life. Today, we propose that the built to be built bespoke Butterfly residence anchor a modern seniors community. Next slide, please. So, how do we make the vision of a fully integrated, intergenerational, forward-looking campus a reality? Next slide, please. We need visioning principles. We need evidence-based principles. And therefore, we rely on things such as the National Seniors Housing Strategy to speak to key ideas within our plans: the promotion of independence, the supporting of healthy and engaged lives, the promoting of care closer to home, supporting caregivers, the true backbone of seniors care. Next slide, please. Headwaters Seniors Village shall align with Orangeville's 5 priorities for an age-friendly community. 1, the design, space planning, and community programs shall promote engagement and connectivity, reducing social isolation. 2, the critical mass of seniors in one area allows for greater access to programming for better use of cross-generational, cross-departmental resources. 3, the village design is undertaken with an age-friendly lens to strengthen accessibility. 4, integrating intergenerational elements such as student and children into the village programming includes age-friendly awareness and support for enrichment of lives of both young and old. 5, ageism. Ageism precludes seniors from meaningful engagement. The very concept of our integrated intergenerational village speaks to the relevance of participation. Next slide, please. This slide is a CMHC slide. It defines the basic types of seniors accommodation. It is presented to note that seniors are a diverse group with diverse needs and wants, all deserve to be served by a complete community. It is a reminder that a senior and their spouse may age at a different trajectory. Offering the spectrum of housing in one location allows couples to continue to live together, to support each other, and to assist all in understanding the inclusiveness necessary for seniors to have the best quality of life. Next slide, please. It sounds like an oxymoron, but it really does take a village to create a village. The campus of care we're proposing includes multiple elements: the long-term care anchoring it, adult and child daycare services, all forms of seniors housing, including retirement home style housing, apartments, ground-orientated seniors-friendly housing, provide the spectrum to allow people to age in place. And most importantly, partnering with educational and medical partners to bring care closer to home, to bring inclusion of seniors and youth together. Next slide, please. We present a campus master plan here that demonstrates what would be a proposed use for the Humberlands, as they're affectionately known. The Headwaters Seniors Village Campus of Care has multiple elements. At number 1, we've identified the Butterfly 192-bed long-term care facility anchoring the campus. This Butterfly home includes the aforesaid 16 Indigenous culturally sensitive beds. It includes a plethora of housing types to include all seniors. It includes a health hub and space designated to bring care closer to seniors. We must note, because we don't want to overstate, that we're in preliminary discussions with the Headwaters Hospital and with the Hills of Headwater Collaborative OAT. We do not want to overstate that they are endorsing or not endorsing this plan. We are in discussions with them. But I do want to note also that the Hills of Headwater Collaborative OAT specifically supported our application. And I also want to note the strategic plan for the hospital includes the provision of care in the community. The president of the hospital is also the co-president of the OAT. We've also confirmed the support of Georgian College for a living classroom to continue the intergenerational pursuit of seniors and younger people, to continue the concept that we can do more with training younger folk in an environment that will give them experience for when they go further along their employment trajectory. Finally, you'll note that we've included the respectful representation of Indigenous elements to be part of the campus. Primacare is currently in dialogue with Bannock, to explore how we can further collaborate to have this respectful representation from and celebrating our Aboriginal brothers and sisters. Next slide, please. We'd like to superimpose at this point in time our hexagons to demonstrate in a color-coded manner how various elements within the campus of care complement one another, work along with one another, and lay out across the campus. I would like to make note to council, through your worship, that this is a preliminary plan, and it's our desire to refine this plan further for better and further integration of these elements to better complement each other. Next slide, please. So why are these elements important? If I would draw your attention, please, to the red circles in the middle, you will note the various types of seniors housing. And it is important for us, to discuss the concept of interdependence. The slide is a little bit confusing, but the basics of the concept is to illustrate that by clustering forms of seniors housing together, you allow seniors to be able to live together longer, to provide peer-to-peer supports, to have opportunities for engagement through work and or volunteerism at various parts of the village, and to have engaging and connected people working together to be the essence of a full and complete community. Next slide, please. You may ask, show me such a seniors village in action. We provide 2 case studies. The first one is a Lutheran Village in Peoria, Illinois, west of Chicago. The concept plan we've shown here has our hexagons superimposed upon it to demonstrate how those concepts apply across this campus. So now, what does the built form look like? It looks like this. You can see all of those elements coming together to have seniors have an engaged, complete community. There is another slide here, which is a case study number 2, which is much closer to home. Simcoe Manor is being redeveloped in Beaton. It's 45 minutes, as you know, from Orangeville. This development is the evolution of a 28-acre campus of Georgian Manor in Penetanguishene that already exists. You can see the dollar amounts here are very substantial. You can see 300 housing units anchored by a 160-bed long-term care. It is important to note that Simcoe County is pursuing the construction of this facility. In fact, there is an open tender out right now that closes on the 15th of this month for the construction services for the long-term care and one of the 4 towers shown within this graphic. Next slide, please. So critical elements to success. Headwaters Seniors Village has the opportunity to be a fulsome, forward-looking, integrated, and intergenerational seniors village. We are here to respectfully ask the town to recognize the social purpose of the Humber lands and ask the town agree to sell these lands to us at fair market value. We also seek the town's agreement to collaborate with us and provide the leadership, which we know is in abundance at the town, to support this vision. I will end with a quote, and I think an important one. It's from Kofi Annan, the former Secretary General of the UN. A society for all ages is multi-generational. It is not fragmented with youth, adults, and older persons going separate ways. Rather, it is age inclusive with different generations recognizing and acting upon their common interest. Your Worship, I thank you for the opportunity to make this presentation to you and to Town Council. What's going on?
Mr. Melchior, thank you very much for your presentation. It's very interesting and an exciting concept, I think, for this land. I'd like to reach out to councillors. I see Councillor Andrews has his hand up and Councillor Post as well. Go ahead, Councillor Andrews.
Well, thank you very much, Your Worship. Mr. Melchior, thank you for your presentation. I appreciate the detail. I also appreciate the forward thinking, vision. For those of the members of council in the community, they certainly know my other life in post-secondary education. I kind of call this the hub and spoke of the education model and or an operational framework that is really progressive and one that post-secondary is in fact moving into. And I know that the footprint that is being talked about would have that connection between long-term care and the opportunity for new practitioners to learn. I'm intrigued by much of what you have presented, and I know that it's still very much in its infancy, conceptual, but you've put forth a master plan that has a lot of different components in it that, again, are reflective of society, where many of us are going to end up having to have a variety of support as we progress in our lives too as well. Just a couple of comments, and this is pertaining to my other hat that I have as a board member with the DCCRC. I know that you have identified clearly about a very important component of the Indigenous element. I would hope that you have the opportunity, if this progresses to a point where you are going to end up potentially looking at, depending on how this all moves ahead, connecting with the DCCRC, as they are the local Indigenous representatives. They have a variety of elders who have, of course, an understanding, and would also, I think, provide some input where necessary, especially with already a healing garden that is in our community, but also some other Indigenous points of reference. The other is, again, my respect for my colleagues at Georgian College. They do have a fine institution and really locally have progressed and committed to the area of care. Of course, PSW shortages, as we have looked at across our province, especially with the impact of the pandemic, and we know about the trials and tribulations that are there. Training new PSW, as well as those that would be a part of advanced care for our seniors, is also very important. And lastly, the timing is very important, as I started off with my comment. It's one that even, from a personal perspective, the difficulties of trying to support aging family members who require long-term care is really a challenge today. And when you have to go out of market to support their needs, it becomes somewhat problematic. So having something progressive here locally is also close to heart for me. So I look forward to further dialogue, but I'm, again, very impressed by your presentation this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Councillor Post.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I just want to thank you so much for your fabulous presentation. There was a lot about the proposal that I really liked, specifically the alignment to the National Senior Strategy and Orangeville's age-friendly community pillars. I thought that was really, really well done. I also really like the thoughtfulness that's put into this type of campus, because it really does ensure a well-rounded continuum of care. And I really appreciate the thought that addresses the seniors' housing crisis, as well as some of the educational components. The pandemic really has revealed, as Councillor Andrews said, some of the gaps that do exist in the medical profession when it comes to seniors in assisted living and long-term care. So I'm very pleased that it addresses some of that. At this time, I know it's very early in the stages, but I would like to make a motion to refer this proposal to town staff for review, for comment, and for further recommendations.
Very good. Deputy Mayor, okay, so the motion, you're making a motion to refer this to staff. I'd like to ask Mr. Ward to weigh in here. Mr. Ward, could you provide us with maybe a timeline for your review and to come back to council?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. So as council, we'll certainly appreciate the Humberlands certainly have a history to them. There's been certainly many different interests expressed in various concepts or development proposals that have come under consideration, many of which have had with them many different appealing attributes and so on that are would be of strong community interest. The lands are designated institutional. They are zoned development, which means that for any development to materialize in whatever shape that may be, has to go through a planning process, a zone change, and likelihood is an official plan amendment as well to recognize whatever the preferred development approach or scenario might be for these lands. So having said that, we certainly intended to look at these lands more holistically as part of the official plan review, and that perhaps would be a very prudent course of action to take in looking more holistically at the most optimal use of these lands, given their positioning in the town's landscape in terms of our I guess finite remaining greenfield lands available for development and some of the opportunity that exists there. My request would be perhaps at this time is to perhaps get some direction to look into this more carefully in terms of not only this particular development concept, but also some options to move forward with making decisions about the ultimate or most desirable land use for these lands in question, and to report back accordingly.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ward. Councillor Sherwood.
Yes, Your Worship. Thank you, Mr. Melchor. I was just wondering, when you mentioned about looking to get our support to purchase the lands, how much land were you looking at? All of it, some of it? What is the vision?
Through your worship, we would look to purchase the entire campus. The campus there is slightly less than 28 acres, I believe. Some of it is the environmental lands, which will be fully respected, of course. We will require the lands in their entirety to allow us to fulfill on the full integrated vision. It is not just a matter of building a long-term care. I don't want to say that's easy, but that's the easy out. What we're looking for is a campus, and when one takes as an example the campus being proposed in Beaton being slightly less than 30 acres, when one takes into account the predecessor in Penetanguishene being some 24 acres, and they are more regular in shape, by the way, they're more square, both of those campuses. They required, quote, every inch, quoting the architect, to fulfill on their campus plan.
Okay, very good. All right, well, I think we've all come to the conclusion, I think, that long-term care, some new long-term care beds in southern Dufferin County are important. Councillor Andrews shared some of his personal experiences with loved ones that unfortunately are going to be taking a place outside of our immediate vicinity. I experienced the same thing with my mother's a few years ago, and for those who are concerned about their loved ones and having them age in place in the town and the area that they're familiar with, we need to help this type of development move forward. The initial application from last year was on a smaller footprint of land, but the idea of a campus, an Eds Meds campus, where training of PSWs or nurses through Georgian College's Health Sciences campus, I think was an exciting idea and addition. We do need additional medical hubs in town, and the west side of Orangeville is underserved with respect to medical hubs. We know that the Hanson Boulevard, the bridge and the road are on track for 2022 completion, that servicing by our public transit is going to be realigned sometime in the next couple of years to service this area. A lot of really important and timely decisions are going to be made in the next little while, and I think having this campus in that location, it's certain for me, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, Councillor Taylor, go right ahead.
My apologies. Thank you, Your Worship. I know Councillor Post has a motion on the floor, but it's okay to speak outside of that for a moment, or do we need to address that now?
Well, I think we will vote on that at some point, yeah. But we can still make comment. Sure.
Very good. Thank you, Your Worship. I guess mine is minor, and I know there's people watching from the Veterans Way community subdivision, and they're concerned, I guess, basically that they're going to have a say and have input. Your Worship, you so aptly mentioned the infrastructure through that area. It's not been complete. It's been quite some time. And I guess maybe Mr. Ward could speak to just a little bit of what that process would be in terms of linkage and community input and that sort of thing, just to set everyone at ease that's in that Veterans Way area if they're watching this evening.
Mr. Ward.
Certainly, through you, Your Worship, as Council may recall, there's been different questions about the timing of the completion of Hanson Boulevard, and I know that process is underway. It involves a town-initiated project with respect to the creek crossing, as well as another sort of the last missing segment, which is also within the hands of a development that's moving forward through its respective process. In terms of some of the other servicing infrastructure questions, those indeed are certainly questions we would need to have answered as part of this process. whether it's looking at this particular concept or any other land use options in particular for these lands, that would all be addressed through the planning process to be moved forward with.
Okay. Mr. Melchior, I wonder if you could make comment on timelines. I know that you've been given approval for 192 beds in this area. What is the expectation of the province on moving forward with building this facility?
Thank you, Your Worship. As I think everybody on the line here can appreciate, the crisis of COVID has recognized that there is not only a need for long-term care quantity to increase, but also quality to increase. And a new bespoke butterfly home is part of the emotion-based care wave that's out there. The province is looking for these facilities to be built yesterday, in the simplest of words. Part of the reason why I suggested during my presentation that the 192 would be built first to anchor it is the requirement the province will put forward to say, if you can't build it, someone else will somewhere else. So to specifically answer your question, Your Worship, it's as soon as possible. We do recognize, and the province does recognize, the necessity to respect the authority of the town over its land uses. And they would, so I'm told, collaborate with whatever the town's wishes are to expedite that, if that is in fact a course that the town chooses to pursue.
Right. Mr. Ward, can you give us some background on MZOs and what that entails?
Certainly, Your Worship. My understanding is the MZO is referred to as administered zoning order. That's a tool in the Planning Act where the province has the ability to come in and invoke its own zoning powers over lands. It's seen as a tool to perhaps expedite a process, the traditional planning process that's public oriented and obtaining feedback and engagement through that process. It's often used as a tool to address different hierarchies. Perhaps you have multi-layers of approval needed, i.e. municipal approval and maybe an upper tier planning approval, where you have those different processes that would run through. It's used to collapse that and simplify or streamline the process. It's also used in circumstances where perhaps you have very contentious provincial interests at stake. We perhaps some may be familiar with some examples in the news down in the GTA area of different competing interests with respect to, say, more prominent employment uses versus competing natural environment interest protections. Those sort of clashing forces come to play, and the province is perhaps asked to come in and basically clear the waters, if you will.
Right, and if I could ask one more question, Mr. Ward, this area, the northwest part of Orangeville, there was sort of employment land overlay, I guess, with respect to official plan. And can you tell us how you calculate what is an acceptable level of employment? Is it, per acre, per population? How do you determine if a particular proposal and the employment brought by that meets that employment requirement that you're working on?
Certainly, to you, Your Worship, I wish there was a short answer to that question. There really isn't. But in terms of trying to come up with that number, there's different approaches used that municipalities or planning authorities take in terms of trying to determine the employment needs of its jurisdiction. A lot of that comes down from the province, of course, in terms of how it delegates through the growth plan the long-term employment forecast for the upper tier municipalities, in our instance Dufferin County, who then has to go through a comprehensive planning exercise to allocate that growth to its member municipalities, and there's a whole hierarchy and a process that's used to disseminate that growth. In terms of how jobs are categorized, institutional uses typically, or they do not qualify as the employment type uses in the context of provincial planning policy with respect to the employment land framework. However, that's certainly not to dismiss that this sort of venture would indeed, as Mr. Melchior alluded to in his presentation, that this use will certainly bring forward some job opportunities of its own in terms of the long-term care facility. And just to clarify, the Humber lands in question are not subject to an employment designation. They are within their own standalone, not standalone, but an institutional land use designation.
Okay. So when we talk about consideration for the public or referring this back to staff, this is with respect to a rezoning with respect to seniors housing or residential uses that are part of this plan. Is that correct?
To your worship, it's essentially whatever council's direction would be in further detail. My suggestion or request might be to take a look at it from a more holistic vantage point. As I mentioned earlier, there's certainly been a number of different ideas or notions alluded to with respect to the most optimal use of these lands, taking into consideration the residential needs of the municipality, the employment use needs of the municipality, and certainly this particular venture in question, which certainly has many different good attributes to it. All of that perhaps could be taken into full context, consideration, and presented with perhaps some options of different ways to move forward.
Right. Just one more point maybe before we get to a vote here, Mr. Ward. I think this is an important priority for the town. I mean, creating a new long-term care facility is very important to us. So if we said to you, we would like to see a report back, in a couple of meetings from now, for instance, we've got an August meeting and then our next meeting is September. Is that a sufficient timeline for you to pull a report together and give some further guidance to town council on making a decision on this particular campus idea?
To your worship, it's certainly doable. I would ask for that perhaps to be looked at in early fall as opposed to the later part of the summer. Just with the council meeting schedule and such, it could be quite difficult to turn that around given the time frames. But yes, it's certainly something we would look into and report back to you on.
Okay, so Councillor Post, regarding your motion to refer this back to staff, could we add on to that this would be back to us by no later than the end of September?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, absolutely. And through you to Mr. Ward, is there anything else that you need in the motion to be more specific for you? Or is review, comment, and recommendation sufficient for your needs?
To your worship, again, my suggestion might be to look at it more holistically. However, if council's wishes are to look at this more specifically and carefully, we'd be happy to act accordingly.
Okay. Yeah, Councillor Taylor, you have a comment?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. But just one last thought, and I guess I'm sure Mr. Ward will do this in his report, but I keep thinking about the amount that we're supposed to grow based on what the province is given, and I'm just curious what impact this would have. And I'm sure that'll be part of your report, but if you could touch on that ever so lightly, just to educate us. It seems to me at 192 beds over such a large area, we may not get the density that we would require to hit the 36,000 given our land use limitations. And I'm not asking you to answer it now, just something maybe we could talk about when your report comes in.
Perhaps through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Taylor, it could be perhaps difficult to look more holistically at how this would impact long-term growth allocations, given that the county, of course, is in their comprehensive review exercise. I note that this concept did include more residential units in its full extent beyond the 192 bed count proposed in the anchoring long-term care facility. So we can certainly work with the proponents to get a more fulsome understanding of those units and perhaps give that consideration in the reporting back to you.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay, Councillor Sherwood.
Yes, at this point, Your Worship, to staff, do we have an actual for sale sign up on that land right now? So is it openly out on the market for sale? So that I'm wondering, like, are we putting any potential offers on hold based on this, or is it actively on the market is what I'm asking?
I would say no, it's not actively on the market. Although there has been other inquiries on the land other than this particular one.
Okay, so there's no for sale sign sitting.
But
We would have to
yeah,
have a decision through council to do so, and we have not.
yeah, I think.
Sorry, Councillor Taylor?
I'm sorry, through you, Your Worship, we would have to have a motion through council to do so, and we have not.
That's what I was getting clarification for, because I believe our presenter was asking for our blessing to sell the property, but you're not wanting to sell it without knowing that you're going to be able to build. So your ask isn't your ask of us to free up that land and put it for sale? And that's why I'm wondering, do we need a motion to do that, to instruct staff to put that for sale?
Well, Councillor Sherwood, I think what has been discussed and what Mr. Melchior has said is that his company is prepared to pay, market value for this, and that would have to be determined by appraisers who understand the land value. But what's more important is what better use is there of this land than what this particular proposal is? The creation of the anchor long-term care, the potential for the Eds Meds campus, the potential for additional medical hub, all of that. Again, to me, it seems like an excellent use of the land, and that will be up to council to make that ultimate decision. But in terms of the value of the land, that can be determined by appraisers who are knowledgeable in this area. And if the land gets rezoned partially to residential, there'll be a component value on residential. There'll be a component value on institutional. And again, that needs to be worked out by appraisers. I see Councillor Peters had his hand up. Go ahead, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through you and with Councillor Post's blessing, I'd appreciate it if Mr. Ward's report include any potential scenarios that have come to light over the last period of time, just to round out the discussion on that land.
Absolutely, Councillor Peters.
Go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I think you and I are saying the same thing, but I just want to put it in my own words anyway. And that is, it's a great proposal today, and I certainly appreciate having the opportunity to bring that to our town. The piece about Humber Lands that everyone who's watching this needs to understand is that is an incredibly valuable piece of land. And once we sell it and make a decision, there's no going back. There are many protagonists that want this land. So it's not like we're just having this one individual business coming to us to want this land. There's many who want this land. And that decision will be made based on what's best for the town and, of course, the financial implications of that. It's not like we're handing it over here. And I mean, no disrespect to the presenter, but, there's other options that are out there as well. And those in the town who are watching tonight or the press should realize that.
Right. Okay, so the motion made by Councillor Post, which now there was a timeline of referring it to town staff for a more complete report back to council for no later than the end of September. Do we have a seconder for that, please? Yes, Councillor Andrews. Very good. All right, any further comments, councillors, on this? No? All right, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Very good. All right, Mr. Melchior, we are going to move this forward with a request to staff to prepare a more comprehensive report on this. We thank you for your presentation tonight. And again, my personal opinion is that this is an excellent use of this town land. The value of the land will be determined at some point, and I wish you well, and looking forward to Mr. Ward's report in a few weeks from now. Okay, all the best. We're going to move on now. Thank you.
Worship. Thank you, Tom.
All the best. Okay, moving on to item 12.1. This is staff report on the 2021 Business Improvement Area Levy recommendation that reports CPS 2021-050, 2021 Business Improvement Area Levy be received, and the council adopt the 2021 BIA levies as proposed for the 2021 fiscal year, and the council pass a bylaw to provide for the levy and collection of a special charge upon rateable property in the Orangeville Business Improvement Area in the corporation of the town of Orangeville for the year 2021. Can we have a motion to receive and approve this? Councillor Sherwood, second by Councillor Taylor. Any further comments on this, councillors? All in favor?
Yes.
Very good. Item 12.2, this is the appointment of animal control officers. A recommendation that the report of appointment of animal control officers be received, and the council pass a bylaw to appoint Megan Archer, Caroline Godson, Meredith Edney, and Rachel Noonan as animal control officers for the purpose of enforcing the town's animal control bylaw. May I have a motion for this, please? Councillor Taylor, second by Deputy Mayor McIntosh. Any comments, councillors, on this before we vote? All in favor? Thank you. All right, item 12.3. This is terms of reference regarding amendment and appointments for the Men's Homelessness Committee. A recommendation that reports CPS 2021-053 regarding terms of reference amendment and appointments to the Men's Homelessness Committee be received, and that the terms of reference be amended to increase the number of citizen appointments from 6 to 8, and the council pass a bylaw to amend the bylaw 2021-019 to appoint Anthony Carnavale, Christopher Sheehan, James Jackson, Louis Sappi, Margot Young, Michael Demsher, Nolan Bentley, and Terrence Carter to the Men's Homelessness Committee. May we have a motion on this, please? Councillor Andrews, second by Councillor Taylor. Any further comments, councillors? Councillor Andrews.
Yes, thank you very much, Your Worship. I just wanted to make note that we have had a few other residents of our community who have reached out to some members of council, and through consultation with some of these individuals, I think that their interest is genuine, but at the same time, I think that we have a solid committee that has been struck. And I think that these individuals that I've spoken to in particular are looking for the opportunity at some point just to listen, learn, and potentially even participate in some subcommittee work if that ever ends up developing at some point in this committee.
Well, I had a meeting this morning with Town Clerk Karen Landry. Unfortunately, the subcommittees can only be struck with the members of the committee. So, but any member of the public can be invited, particularly those with special knowledge and that wish to participate in these meetings. These will be public meetings, and those who have reached out, Councillor Andrews and Councillor Sherwood, we will be inviting those individuals to come to the first meeting, and we're very happy to have them participate. So, Councillor Sherwood.
Yes, Your Worship. I too today had another individual approach me about getting on the committee. So the fact is, they will be advertised on our website, these meetings, and they'll be open to the public, as you've mentioned, and also on our website, correct? So have we got a plan now that we're planning this, when our first meeting may be? And when will you
well,
be making that discussion?
I did go over that with Ms. Landry this morning again. So the staff member who's been appointed to this committee is Andrea Shaw. Unfortunately, Andrea is on vacation this week. We will reach out to her upon her return, which I believe is Monday. So we will make the first meeting date on Monday, and we will circulate it to everybody. And we will, as you said, put it on our website. But the intention is to have the first meeting before the end of July.
Awesome.
Okay. Very good. All right. Did we vote on that? Or no? Okay. So we've got a motion on the floor to approve all of this. Any further comments, councillors? All right. All in favor?
Yes.
Very good. Item 12.4. This is regarding the Alder Recreation Center pool liner. And as members of the public will recall, we've had some issues with the pool liner. There has to be some major dollars spent. The town council had approved not only the replacement of the liner, but also some additional increase in size to the pool. And now with the item out for our RFP and for a tender, we found that the costs are higher than what we had anticipated. Mr. Osmond, our Director of Community Services, has put a report together with options for council to consider on replacement of the leisure pool liner and the 25-meter lap pool. Mr. Osmond, do you want to give us your Coles Notes version here, and then we can ask questions?
Sure. Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Council. So as you can see from the report, the numbers are not where we want them to be in terms of what we had projected in our budget process. In fact, some of the numbers that we had projected based on our discussions with suppliers and so on and so forth have come in much higher than we anticipated. So what I've done here in the report is I looked at the various options with the low bidder and see what we can do if we had to make changes to the scope of the project. First and foremost, I mean, we have to replace the liners in both pools, not just in the 8-lane lap, well, would be an expanded 8-lane lap pool, but also the leisure pool. And we looked at a few options. First off the top, what I did was supply the options, giving the major option being the stainless steel right across the two pools, with the exception of a vinyl floor in the leisure pool. And the reason why we left the vinyl pool, the floor in the leisure pool, was simply because it is a leisure pool, and because we don't have a therapeutic pool as such, that floor is in a low depth pool, and we maintain the vinyl floor because of it's got a small bit of movement, and it's better for persons with hip issues and knee issues and these kinds of things. Lap pools, on the other hand, a little bit different. So what we made a recommendation back in the September month on this particular venture, the pool venture, is that we wanted to go with stainless steel because of lots of reasons. And in the report, I've highlighted a bunch of reasons in terms of its benefits from a sustainability perspective, from energy conservation perspective, and so on. There's a very long list. And what we've done, and I'm going to try to mix it up a little bit because there's a lot of things going on with this project. And we looked at this project because the stainless steel piece would give us the benefit of operating at a lot lower cost. So the long view on a stainless steel pool, both in the lap pool and in the leisure pool, is that your cost of operating going forward will be much lower on the not only on the energy side, but also on the maintenance side. The other thing on this particular product is that it will be around for a lot longer. The lifespan of a PVC pool, it's debatable on whether it's a 10-year, whether it's 12-year, whether it's 15-year or less. Depends on a whole bunch of things factors around the water and how you maintain the pool itself and the uses and so on and so forth. However, with stainless steel, there's not a lot to go wrong with it. You can maintain it, clean it, and it can last for 25, 30 years plus. And if you had to do any changes to a stainless steel pool, you can lower the level of the pool, take it to section needs to be changed, and insert it and move on. However, with a PVC pool, is a little bit more work, and a lot more costs, and you're looking at probably replacing it at a shorter time frame. So longevity perspective from our side of things is that we need to maintain, our first recommendation would be to go with stainless steel across the board, and for all the good reasons operationally. So given that this project was on the table in when the government released its program for green and inclusive community buildings, you'll see in my report, I put an option on there because, you know, bottom line is we could get funding for it if we get the funding, because this project does meet the energy savings and the conservation side of things, the green side of things, along with the other pieces that can fit this project, like the infrastructure stable refrigeration system, as well as the HVAC system on the roof, the RTU8. All these pieces are part and parcel of the one project if you were to piece them all together, because they all support each other. So we've taken this project and put it into a application to government, and it's valued at somewhere between $7.5 million, with government putting in $4.7 million if we were to be successful in getting the application. If we were fast tracking this forward and government were to approve this kind of funding, we would not have this conversation. And unfortunately, we do have the conversation. My look at all of this and looking at it and talking to our consultants on the project is that the long view would be the better view in terms of having stainless steel environment in both lap pool and in leisure pool. And in the lap pool, because we're expanding it, there's not just the cost of the stainless steel that's doubled or more than doubled in price. The stainless steel right now being supplied, it went from $2.10 a pound on when we did the original estimates to $4.30 a pound. And that's a big change in the marketplace. And the other things we looked at, the bid from the all three bidders, as their labor cost has gone up. All the other products we're using has seen increases. And what we're also been told is that if we wait much longer, we're probably going to see another increase. And that's just a market pushing things at us. I discussed this with the treasurer, and she agrees with me, is that, you know, what we're seeing across the board, a lot of our projects are bigger projects, so we're seeing increases. We're a little bit fearful of the fact that we could see more increases in this market because of things going on this post-COVID and even during COVID. So that's probably one of the bigger factors is pushing this. And we're finding ourselves now in a position where we're going to have to spend more money. The other option in terms of funding this project is that we're not looking for new funding. It's a matter of reallocating a project that'll have no impact in the immediate future for our operations, i.e. sustainable refrigeration piece. If we take the funding we've committed to $2 million for and push that project a little further ahead, and took the money from that project to keep this priority project going, and because this project is a revenue generating project. We need to replace the two liners, we need to get our pools back in operation, and we need a system that can go forward for a long time. So we would recommend that we not look at looking for new funding in reserves or those kinds of things, but just reallocating the funding we have from refrigeration, and then lead the refrigeration piece onto a future look, see if we can get funding from a government source. And if we're lucky enough, we might get some funding from the project we have in now, and then we would move on with all three pieces and to be nothing being stopped and nothing held up. So it's a little longer in terms of how I present this, but it's a three-piece kind of a thing that this pool is wrapped around. And from my perspective, looking at how we operate the pool and what has gone on in this pool right now, we've actually went into this pool and done repairs on this existing pool 3 times already in the last 15 years. These are major changes. These are shutdowns, big shutdowns, long shutdowns. In the case of stainless steel, you won't see a shutdown. And the other thing about this you need to remember is that the filtration system and the air handling system wrapped around this pool is designed to not use a lot of water, not use so much chemicals, and not have to be filtered as much. So the system around this, not only is it energy efficient, but this system will, as a backwash as an example, in our regular pool right now, backwashes can be done anywhere from 4, 5, 6, 7 days, every 7 days. In the case of this one here, it could be 75 days or more. In actual fact, you don't need to backwash if the system is being maintained properly. So they have done backwashes on these systems just to make sure things are operating fine, and they come anywhere from 75 to 100 days. But if you're backwashing, what happens is you're getting rid of a lot of water and you're refilling the pool again, the water that you've taken out to backwash, and you're also putting new chemicals back. You're also eating that water again. In this case, we don't need to be doing that, and it's big savings. So there's savings right across the board in terms of how these pools operate. The other big piece, and this council have heard about back in the early days, was the air quality in a pool environment, particularly at Tony Rose. In this pool, you don't need to see it so much because it's a bigger volume of space. But when you put in an 8-lane pool, you'll have more people in the water, more things happening in the water, and you get the chloramines being produced on top of the water. This system is designed with an exhaust system that sucks that all off the top of the water. So our air quality in this pool will be much higher quality than in our current pool. And the system will exhaust all the chloramines off the top of the water and take it out of our environment. So that's a huge piece for us in terms of the swim team in particular, and when we have a lot of our bathing loads in the pool itself. So lots of benefits to a stainless steel system going forward, and it just comes down to dollars and cents. There is one extreme, the full stainless steel piece, and then there's a lower extreme where we have stainless steel walls and everything else PVC. And we can also take out the small water feature that we have. Again, it could be something we can put into future budgets and do things in this project that can actually attach it after the fact. But I think we have 4 options. I put the numbers on the bottom to push for the number 1 option, but it's council decision if he wants to take another option or discuss the 4 options.
All right. Mr. Osmond, so just on the financing of this, you mentioned refrigeration. So this would be putting off the Eco-Chill project. Is that correct? That's what your thoughts are?
That is correct. Pushing that project forward. I mean, our ice plants work fine. It's just that we're putting in a sustainable system that would save a lot of energy, and the actual Eco plant, if you use that brand name, that would actually, we would recover all the heat from that plant to warm the water for the pool.
Right, and the longevity of the stainless steel liner. You and I talked this morning. You said 25 years would be.
They would say but a guarantee of 25 to 30 years, but would go longer if you maintain it properly and nothing goes wrong, nothing damages it or that kind of thing. But yes, absolutely. So
in a 30-year period, if we went with vinyl, you'd be replacing it 2 or 3 times in that period.
It could be more. We've seen comparisons in the market where pools were replaced less than 10 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. All right. We've got a few hands up. Councillor Peters and then Councillor Post.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Osmond, thank you for the report. Very comprehensive. No one likes to see the changes in the market, but we're seeing it everywhere, not just in pools, in construction, in labor and materials. So all that said, I believe the durability and long-term positive impacts of the stainless steel solution are what we should be moving forward with. So I'll be voting in favor of option 1. Along that line, I did have a question, and that was regarding maintaining the vinyl floor on the leisure pool. Do you have any, or could you expand on that thought? Is there other evidence of mixing those 2 surfaces? Do the seams become problematic? Are there case studies where that solution's been installed, and what might some of the troubles be with mixing those 2 materials?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Peters. It's a good point. I've asked the same question on a floor of a pool that sits on a concrete base. It's a little different than when you hang it on the walls or you attach it to the walls. The way the sheet is done on the floor itself, it can last a lot longer because you don't have the impact on the walls hanging on the walls and the way they're joined. I had the same concern, would they last 15 years, 20 years if it's a floor? One of the other things in terms of not having the PVC floor on a lap pool is it's a much larger pool to work with. In a leisure pool, it's a low depth pool. To do maintenance on it or repair it, it's a very low water volume. You can easily drop the pool and make the repair and move on. But when you have a lap pool, that's a far more larger venture. So we know they've done the similar project in the last year in Oakville, and they dropped from a maintenance perspective. They wanted to see how it's working, and they did drop the water in the pool and take a look at it, and things were perfect, no issues. In terms of from a leisure perspective, from a therapy perspective, I think the vinyl floor for older adults in particular, will be beneficial in a very low volume water pool because it's designed a little different. It's a lot lower depth. And if we had to do maintenance on it, we could do maintenance and repairs. And we've had very little repairs on the existing leisure pool except for the walls themselves, and a couple of repairs on the floor. Most of the problems have been in the lap pool.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Post.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Osman. I'm aligned with what Councillor Peters has said about option 1 being the right decision. I think that your comprehensive report really highlights that. With that being said, if council goes ahead with option 1 as the solution, what would be the projected timeline of the work? When are we have an ETA of completion?
We would start demolition within 10 days, and we're aiming to have the project finished by the end of December.
That's wonderful to hear. So it would be up and full running back by Christmas time or beginning of January.
We would like to be a little earlier in December, but we're using the end of December as our target right now.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Mr. Osman, can you and I do the first cannonballs?
Absolutely. Love to.
Okay, you're on. Councillor Sherwood, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, Your Worship, through you to Mr. Osmond. Thank you very much for the detailed report. I too will be supporting option 1. I think you might as well, if you're going to do it right the first time. You know, there's no sense doing some patchwork and then us regretting it later on. Do you have any idea, sir, when we'll know the results of the GICB that you've submitted?
That's a good question, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Sherwood. That project, what I'm told is it could be anywhere from a month to 2 months, hopefully within a 2-month period. Matter of fact, I actually looked at one of the options being if we were to get approval on a grant like that within a 2 months, could I turn something around in this project? And they said, yes, we could do that. It'd be a bit difficult. We could do that. But if we get the funding, of course, then we won't slow down on the sustainable refrigeration piece. We'll move forward on that right away because it would be covered off. So it's right now we're looking at probably anywhere from a month to 2 months. Our understanding is that there's a fast turnaround time on these projects, and that's what government's trying to initiate things in the market right now in municipalities and getting people working. So we're hoping for a fast turnaround.
Just one quick follow-up, Your Worship.
Yeah, go ahead,
so you've already made application based on option 1 figures, correct?
Correct. That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed, Mr. Osmond. Councillor Andrews, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, Mr. Osmond. Again, thank you for the amount of time that you have spent on this. I know that we've had some side conversations about the dilemmas that exist at the Alder Pool location. And, you know, again, I just applaud you and your team for perseverance and really providing us with a lot of detail. This is kind of an out-of-the-box thinking, and I know that it may be certainly premature, but, you know, looking down the road, you know, ROI is really important, and I will be supporting option number 1, as some of my other fellow councillors have mentioned. But looking at some form of corporate naming rights or sponsorship or support is very much a part of, you know, a philosophy I believe in, and I know that, you know, you've been able to secure some corporate sponsor and support for other things at the Alder location. Is this something that may be under consideration somewhere down the road? I know that there was previously some naming rights to that location, and I'm not sure what the status of that is at this time, but just again, asking the question.
Thank you, through Your Worship, to Councillor Andrews. That's a good point. In actual fact, we discussed this just this morning. We're looking at a policy for sponsorship, for advertising and sponsorship. And one of those things being whether or not we can name, you know, facilities, name spaces within facilities. Like we used to have the pool itself used to be named by a corporate sponsor, and likewise we would do this. In this case, we could do similar. Matter of fact, in one of the bids that we had, the supplier did talk about the potential for some of the pieces we're using can be looked at from a marketing perspective. We may get a sponsorship for those pieces because they haven't been used. So these ideas are absolutely on the table for us going forward.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
We've got Deputy Mayor McIntosh and then Councillor Andrews. Deputy Mayor, go ahead. I meant Councillor Taylor, sorry. I think it's on Andrews. My apologies. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
I was actually going to make the motion that we go with option 1 at this time.
Great. I was gonna cede that to Councillor Peters since he was the first one on the who made it, but whatever. You can second that, I guess, Councillor Peters.
Sure.
Councillor Taylor, did you want to make comments, sir?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. You know, I don't want to swim upstream or anything like that, and I certainly don't want to tread water on this project, but I guess when something's so big like this, you just feel like you should own up and tell the public how you're going to vote. And, you know, with $4 million going out the window, you don't need to comment on everything, but I too will be supporting this. It's not something that you take with lighthearted. It just feels like we're tucked in a corner here, and there's not a lot we can do. This is a plug your nose and take it, I guess. And $4.4 million is really hard to digest, but at the end of the day, it needs to be done. It needs to be done properly. If you talk to the Otter swim team, they've had so many complaints over the last couple of years because, and no offense to the previous council that did it, they did the best job they could, but it wasn't done properly in the first place, and we've got an opportunity here to fix it. And as much as it breaks my heart to put that much money out there, I think it's the right thing to do, and I'll take my lumps with the public if that's what we need to do, but I'll be voting for option 1 as well.
Very good. All right. So we have a motion on the floor. Deputy Mayor McIntosh, second by Councillor Peters. Any further comments? Mr. Osmond, you wish to speak? Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, for sake of clarity, because on the financial side is probably my error in trying to get the report all completed. We don't know what we're going to run into when we cut off the deck of this pool. So I did put a contingency on the bottom of the financial side. So I'd like to have the approval based on that number so that I can work with that number. And hopefully, again, I don't have to use it, but if something comes up that we haven't seen in the deck itself when we cut this pool open, just a potential for contingency.
Very good. All right. Thank you. And again, for the public, Mr. Osmond has put in an application for grant financing based on a lot of energy savings with respect to the swimming pool and the eco-chill system that has been proposed. And if we do get the grant funding from the federal government, it's going to be a very good thing for the town of Orangeville. So let's keep our thoughts positive on that front. All right, any further comments before we vote here? Seeing none, all in favor of option 1?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Mr. Osmond.
Thank you, Your Worship.
All the best. Moving on to correspondence, we have a number of items of correspondence. We have the County of Dufferin regarding residential schools, the Town of Shelburne regarding residential schools, the Town of Shelburne regarding the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada, the Town of Mono regarding regulatory proposals under the Conservation Authorities Act, the Town of Mono, again, residential schools, Town of Mono unencapsulated polystyrene foam, and the Credit Valley Source Protection Authority, which has appointed county, I believe, has appointed Chris Jarretts to be recommended as the municipal group representative on the CTC Source Protection Committee. So, councillors, we need to receive this correspondence and approve the appointment of Mr. Jarretts to this CTC Source Protection Committee. Councillor Peters has his hands up. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would make the motion with a potential amendment with council's blessing as well to also endorse the Dufferin County resolution regarding the residential schools. So not only receive it, but also endorse it.
I would be in support of that as well. Councillors, any further comments or questions on this correspondence? So we have a motion on the floor from Councillor Peters, and I will second that motion. That is to receive all of this correspondence and endorse the County of Dufferin's letter regarding residential schools, and that we approve and endorse the appointment of Chris Jarretts as the municipal group representative on the CTC Source Protection Committee. All right, any further comments? No, all in favor?
Yes.
Great, thank you, councillors. Moving on to committee and board minutes. We have a recommendation that the minutes of the following meetings be received: the February 23rd, March 23rd, and April 20th meetings of the Police Services Board, the February 25th Cultural Plan Task Force minutes, the March 23rd Business and Economic Development Committee minutes, and the May 25th Orangeville Library Board minutes. May we have a motion to receive those minutes, please? Councillor Andrews, seconded by Deputy Mayor McIntosh. Any comments on those minutes? Councillor Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to perhaps Chair Taylor or yourself regarding the police board minutes. We had this conversation back in the OPS days, but you know, to receive February minutes in July seems like there's an inordinate delay. Could one of you speak to that process, and is there the potential to bump those up a little bit in terms of timeline to keep the public informed?
Councillor Taylor.
Yes, Councillor Peters, it's a very good comment. Candidly, we were interviewing for a new secretary at that time. We didn't have a secretary. So since that time, we've hired a secretary. It took a little bit of time to get that person up and running. We are up and running now, and I would anticipate a better flow moving forward. So, but your comment is spot on and taken. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the update.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to receive those items. All in favor? Very good. All right, 15.1. This is a notice of motion prior to meeting. So some of the council, maybe all of you know that the Orangeville Legion was looking to put an additional monument at Greenwood Cemetery to honor particularly the veterans that are in that cemetery. And talking to the Legion, there are a number of veterans in the Greenwood Cemetery. They have a design that they have been looking forward to moving ahead for about 4 years. It was presented to the last council and the previous mayor. For various reasons, it did not move forward. They brought it back to our council in 2019, and we did approve a $5,000 additional community grant to the Orangeville Legion, and wish them well in a fundraising campaign to bring the rest of the money together. More recently, in the past 2 or 3 months, there has been some additional fundraising that has gone on to the point where we have the funds available to move this project forward. The Greenwood Cemetery is an asset of the town of Orangeville. In order to make an improvement and add this type of memorial requires town council approval. This is why we're bringing this forward today. The process is going to involve, once this if council gives this approval, the Legion has to send a letter to their central command. Things like getting approval for the use of the poppy logo, which is patented, I guess, in some fashion. They have to get approval for central command to create a veterans memorial and to use logos and insignias that they have requested. The town of Orangeville logo is also going to be used, and they need permission, obviously, from the town for that. So talking to Legion President Barry Kimber this morning, he's a little bit concerned about timeline here. And again, once this is approved, what we have determined is that the purchasing of the monument will go through town of Orangeville. Reason being is that as the town makes purchases, there is some favorable tax implications regarding HST, some significant savings, some thousands of dollars would be saved if the purchase was made by town procurement rather than directly by the Legion. So that's one reason to run the dollars through the town. We've also received some dollars and some commitments from corporate entities to cover the full cost of this new memorial. Mr. Lackey has been out to site with Mr. Kimber. They've selected an appropriate location for the installation of this monument, And this approval will allow, procurement to begin and planning of excavation and a footing for this monument. And of course, a letter needs to come from Town of Orangeville to the Legion to give them, the permission and the approval to move forward with their central command approvals that they require. Now, the reason I mentioned timeline concerns is because the desire would be to have this installed by November the 11th, obviously being Remembrance Day. We're starting to push up against that because the monument is going to take some time to produce. It's quite a beautiful monument, but there is many weeks required. So what I'm going to ask council to consider tonight is to waive the time requirement and go ahead and approve this tonight rather than putting it off to our next meeting, which is going to be in August. And again, if we don't give the approval tonight, I think that November 11th deadline is going to be in jeopardy. And again, I confirmed this with Mr. Kimber this morning. So I'd like to ask council to approve this tonight and to waive notice on the time here and approve it for tonight. So let me read this again. The council allow the Royal Canadian Legion to construct a stone monument on town property at Greenwood Cemetery, and that authorization be given to issue a letter to the Orangeville Legion indicating the town has sufficient funds for the monument project and the town approves of locating the Legion monument on town lands at the cemetery, and that staff be directed to oversee the construction of the work, and the town authorizes the use of the town of Orangeville's crest as part of the planned monument. I'd like to make that motion. Can we have a seconder on that? Councillor Post. And again, this would give final approval tonight, waiving the notice requirement. Councillor Sherwood, you wish to speak?
Yes, Your Worship. What are the plans of the Legion to acknowledge those donors? You mentioned that there's been some private donors. First of all, when will we be told who those private donors are? Are they wanting to be anonymous? When will they be publicly divulged? And what is the Legion's plans to acknowledge those donors? Will their names be on the monument?
I think there's some specific requirements, Councillor Sherwood, about what can be on the monument, because it would be considered a sort of a heritage, part of, I guess, Canadian Forces approvals. And I don't believe that those sponsor names can be on the monument itself, but there's a potential for an additional plaque. We haven't got all the dollars sorted out yet, but it appears that there will be some surplus money available to do sort of a donor plaque as a separate item. And I think what we can do is maybe with Mr. Lackey's agreement, perhaps at our next council meeting, maybe bring a short report, Mr. Lackey, about what the process will be, and we can divulge the names of the donors at that time as well.
Yes,
around.
So Your Worship, yeah. What I was thinking is that if it seems like the way your motion is written, we're the ones paying for the project and then we're collecting the funds. So I think we should be making some kind of news release or an announcement as to who those contributing donors are, right?
Yes, of course. Yes, we can do that for sure. Yeah.
So I don't know if a report's necessary.
Do you want to hear them now, or is next meeting soon enough for you?
I don't know. It doesn't matter. I just think that if we are the ones that are paying for it, the way you're addressing it, as long as a news release is made to the point that here's our donors and that there's going to be an acknowledgement by the Legion in some way, shape, or form, that's great. It doesn't have to be announced tonight.
Yeah, I think there was one hiccup. One of the donors, and again, I've got to sort this out, but this particular donor was approached by Bravery Park for a significant donation, I think, to top up the Bravery Park project, and thought that the request on this one was the same. And they have sent an email back saying, well, we already gave money for this. So I think one of the donors is backing out on the ask. Now, that particular amount of money does not stop the project, but it may be the money required for this additional, acknowledgement. So I think there can be some further outreach to our corporate, community to collect that additional funds if that one donor has in fact backed out. But we'll know that for next council meeting, Councillor Sherwood, and I think we can announce all of the donors, the total amount of money, and that shouldn't be a problem at all to do that. Okay, very good. All right, so councillors, all in favor?
Yes.
Very good, thank you. Moving on to item 16, any notices of motion at meeting? Seeing none, let's move on to new business. Anybody have any new business? Councillor Andrews, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to take a moment to thank those that were involved. I know that we haven't had an opportunity since our previous meeting, and some events that have taken place, of course, happened afterwards. This is, of course, the evening of healing and reflection that was held at the end of June. I wanted to thank yourself, Councillor Sherwood, also the members of the DCCRC board, also the Eagle Heart singers and drummers, and the very limited number of the public that were able to come and reflect that evening. I know that correspondence that we have received this evening, some of it is, of course, identifying, of course, the residential schools and the responses from the different municipalities. But, this particular evening came together very quickly. I want to thank your leadership in kind of moving this forward. But it was a very emotional and very important evening from a town's perspective. I know that I hate to say that there were some members of the community that kind of questioned, and I wouldn't even use the term criticize, but I will, why we ended up doing this. There should be no criticism for a community such as ours to take the time to reflect the activities that have taken place, and we are supporting our Indigenous leaders and community members. So again, thank you for those that did participate and support this event.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Yes, the news that has come out and will be continuing to come out of this story is unsettling, to say the least. And we hope that the federal and provincial governments will be able to produce a report with full transparency and get the required information that to release to the public on what has happened here. We're looking forward to seeing that and again, supporting our Indigenous communities with respect to, again, the truth and reconciliation. And I think, we need to, again, as a municipality, review the report of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and ensure that we are adopting those items that municipalities have been recommended to adopt. So I think that's something we have to look at in the next, before the end of this year, is bring that forward and make sure we've covered all those items off. All right.
I also just like to take just a second to thank Councillor Post again for putting forth that motion regarding the crosswalk that will be installed before September 30th as well.
Yes, and again, it's unfortunate that people are making comment on things like a rainbow crosswalk or on this Indigenous crosswalk, which is going to be quite beautiful, I think. And talking about public money being spent. Well, tonight we just dropped $4.4 million on some people that want to go swimming, and the cost of the symbolic crosswalks that we're putting up we're talking about $5,000-$10,000 each on those things, and to support those communities and to show the symbolism of what that support means as a community, I think is very important and well worth every dollar spent. So those out there who feel the need to complain about it, I'm afraid you're in the vast minority that people are feeling for our Indigenous communities and this continuing symbolism of that crosswalk, which will be there for years to come. And of course, the rainbow crosswalks, supporting our LGBTQ2S community is important. And I mentioned it before, just the bright addition to downtown that those forget about what they really mean, the deep meaning. Just they're fun. They're children, I'm sure, love walking on them. The crosswalk across Broadway at Wellington has actually improved the safety of that crosswalk for pedestrians. So, forgetting the symbolism, they're just fun. They're part of the downtown now. I think they're attractive for tourists, and there's a safety component there for sure. So thank you to Councillor Post again, and of course the Celebrate Your Awesome committee that has been behind a lot of these initiatives, and thank you. All right, Councillor Post and then Councillor Taylor.
That was a lovely segue, Mr. Mayor, for me to talk just for a second about Celebrate Your Awesome. The virtual event will be launched on August 7th on the Celebrate Your Awesome YouTube channel. So I'm hopeful that everybody will tune in. If you do miss it on the 7th, it will be available on the YouTube channel following that as well. It looks like it's probably going to be dropped at about 7 o'clock at night on the 7th. And the week leading up to that event, actually, we're doing a very cool educational component where we've partnered with the Orangeville Public Library to bring a virtual human library component. So on the evenings of the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, there will be an opportunity to sign up for a Zoom link to attend these human library events. So just stay tuned to the Orangeville Library's Facebook page and to the Celebrate Your Awesome Facebook page for all the details.
Thank you, Councillor Post. Councillor Taylor.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. So one kind of serious and then a little bit of levity, if I could, and that is, so the Terry Fox Run is coming up again in the fall. And this year in town, our ambassador is Orangeville resident David Kirk. He's done this run for over 40 years, and he will be enlisting the help of council with this. And the idea is to create kind of an Orangeville only event where there's lots of awareness and local well-known people such as yourselves, hopefully offering some publicity to the event and helping out and driving awareness. So anyway, more to come on that, Council, but hoping that everyone can support the cause as the asks come across. And then on a lighter note, some kind of good news. So as we open up a little bit more, our friends at Theatre Orangeville are continuing to run online. And The Third Life of Eddie Mann is going to be produced and available for all of us to watch July 30th to August 17th. And the tickets are quite reasonable at $25. So that is going to be coming up. And then the last thing I guess I'd like to say is super exciting that we've opened partially and that we will be fully opening on the 19th within our town. I've been to the Bluebird twice. I've got reservations coming up at Greystones, and I'm going to Rustic here soon too. Not because I'm a crazy eater-outer, but it's nice to support these local. Oh, and I'm going to Mochaberry tomorrow for lunch. So if you're out about, but I guess the idea is let's just get out there and support these guys. These businesses need our income, and it's such a joy to be back out there and see everybody. So I know everybody on this group is out and about as well, and look forward to seeing the public again too. It's been a long time.
Right.
That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. I just wanted to follow up on Terry Fox. It's such a remarkable story. I think when he decided to do that run, he wanted to raise $1 million for cancer research, and it's over 800 million now that has been raised. I've been fortunate to stop at the memorial just outside of Thunder Bay. It's an absolutely stunning site. That particular memorial overlooking, I guess it's Lake Superior at that point, if I'm not mistaken, and he really is a true national hero. And I think council, and you can tell Mr. Kirk, we'll do everything we can to help support and encourage runners and participation and donations to the Terry Fox Foundation. Thank you. Did I see Councillor Sherwood with her hand up? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Sherwood.
Yes, Your Worship. I just wanted to remind the public of the summer concert series that's going to be happening, the 6 drive-in dates at Rotary Park. I don't know if you wanted to speak to that, Your Worship, or do you want me to continue?
No, carry on.
Okay, so again, tickets are available online. You can buy the tickets. There's just a reminder, the August 20th and 21st and August 25th to 28th. There's going to be some great variety. There's going to be some jazz, blues, family, country, a good mixture of some events. This is the 2nd annual. Thanks to Your Worship for bringing that forward last year. I'm very excited that it's going to continue again this year. So I'm encouraging everyone to buy their tickets and help support some of this talent.
Very good. And by the way, you mentioned blues. So the blues and jazz folks, Larry Kurtz and Josh Leach and the team that puts out that particular event for our town is running the first 2 nights. So Friday and Saturday night will be jazz performers brought on and sponsored by the Blues and Jazz Festival. So it'll be exciting to see that. And I am now declaring the summer concert series to be over officially forever, because we're never going to have one of these damn pandemics again in our lifetime. So that's what I'm declaring tonight. So thank you, Councillor Sherwood, for that those comments. Any other new business, councillors? No. Okay. Question period. Madam Clerk, do we have anybody on the line?
I do see that we have some people on the line, but I don't know if they have any questions.
Mr. Bonato, is this pound, what is it, 6th?
Start
So,
6.
Through you, Your Worship, the individual we actually have online is connected through Teams, so if they just unmute their microphone or camera, they can address council.
All right. Well, if there's somebody online that wishes to ask a question of council, please unmute yourself and ask away. All right. Seeing no activity there, I guess we have no questions from the public. Moving on to 19, these are bylaws to be approved and finalized tonight. I'll read them off. This is a recommendation that the bylaws listed below be read 3 times and finally passed. A bylaw to provide for the levy and collection of special charge upon rateable property in the Orangeville Business Improvement Area in the Corporation of the Town of Orangeville for the year 2021. A bylaw to amend bylaw 021-2019 to confirm appointments to various boards and committees. A bylaw to appoint Megan Archer, Carolyn Godsend, Meredith Edney, and Rachel Noonan as animal control officers for the Town of Orangeville. And a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Orangeville at its regular and closed council meeting held on July 12th, 2021. We have a motion to approve these, please. Deputy Mayor McIntosh, Councillor Andrews, all in favor? And a motion to adjourn, please. Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Post. All in favor? All right, folks, thank you. Good night. All the best.
Take care, everyone.
Take
Good
care.
night.